as Ukraine conducts more special self-combustion operations in Mordor, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky heads to Washington, D.C. next week. Let's talk about it. Now, let me be honest, there's not much that makes me happier than witnessing a Russian special self-combustion operation. And oh boy, have we been spoilt for choice recently.
Даша, смотри, на дорогу, Даша! Смотри на дорогу! Да я вижу дорогу! Даша, смотри на дорогу!
Охренеть! Биться сердце перестало.
Volodymyr Zelensky has urged Joe Biden to allow Ukraine to carry out long-range strikes inside Russia with US-supplied weapons, and to earn, as he called it, a place in history by strengthening Ukraine before he leaves office. Speaking before a crucial trip next week to Washington, where he will meet Biden and the US Vice President and presidential nominee Kamala Harris and address the UN, Zelensky said he would present a victory plan to end the war. His vision for a just peace has not been made public, but in a media briefing with The Observer in Kyiv, Zelensky said it involving carrying out deep strikes with Western missiles inside Russia, something that London and Washington have so far refused. And let me just interject here, as a British citizen, as someone who's been in Ukraine volunteering, as someone who's witnessed firsthand what the Ruski Mir is about, as someone who's smelt firsthand what the Ruski Mir is about. As a British citizen, they've murdered British citizens on British soil. They threatened to nuke us and wipe us off the face of the map for over 2 years. Let the storm shadows rain down on these Vatnik scum. Because I don't know about anyone else, but I'm getting a bit fucking sick and tired of this cup of Ukrainian blood having to be filled of soldiers, civilians, men, women and children. And then once that cup is filled and starts overflowing and starts bringing up the weight, then we respond by sending weapons. We're all in this now, whether you like it or not. So let's send what needs to be sent and to win this fucking thing now. And just listen to this here from Timothy Snyder.
Part of being an empire is controlling the discourse. And to a large degree, the Russians have been able to control the strategic discourse, setting up for us new rules in war, which have never existed before. Like, for example, that when you invade another country, the entire war should take place on the territory of the country you've invaded. No one has ever said that before because it's completely absurd. And yet somehow it's been accepted in the United States as normal that this war should be fought on Ukrainian territory. There is no precedence for that kind of idea. Another idea that the Russians have that we've accepted is that it's normal, for example, when you and I were in Kiev, for ballistic missiles to rain down on the city where we were trying to do normal business, but it's somehow not normal for ballistic missiles from Ukraine to go into Russia. Why is that? Why is it normal for one country and not for another? It has a great deal to do with imperial thinking, which we have accepted. There's something precious, special, etc. about Russia, and somehow it's okay for Ukrainians to be victims because they always have been victims. We need to investigate, I think, that understructure of thinking, which I believe has guided our policy in the wrong way. So as far as empires are concerned, I'll return to what I said at the end, trying to respond now to your question about a victory plan. I believe the Ukrainians are right about something that they're hard pressed to convince us of, and I think what I'm saying now is consistent with the history of empire. The Russians are going to negotiate peace when they believe they are losing. And so if anyone is serious about negotiation, that person should be trying to get the Russians into a position where they think they might be losing. The Ukrainians get that, but they're having a really hard time making us understand that pairing. So when they talk about a victory plan or a peace plan, what they mean is together the West and Ukraine do enough to get Russia to a point where it might negotiate sincerely. They're not there now.
The UK has indicated it is willing to allow Ukraine to use British Storm Shadow cruise missiles, but the White House remains sceptical. The UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, failed to resolve the issue when he held private talks last week with Biden in Washington. Zelensky confirmed no green light had been given, despite months of high-level lobbying. Quote, neither the US nor the UK has allowed us to use these weapons on the territory of Russia against any target and at any distance, he said. UK Storm Shadows, the French equivalent Scalp, and the US ATACMS system have not been provided in the numbers we need. He suggested the reluctance of international partners could be explained by fear of escalation with Moscow.
Все последние дни мы видим и слышим, как на очень высоком уровне в Великобритании и в США муссируется тема о том, что киевский режим сможет наносить удар вглубь территории России западными вооружениями большой дальности. И, судя по всему, это решение либо вот-вот будет принято, либо, судя по всему, вообще уже принято. И эта вещь, конечно, экстраординарная. Хотелось попросить прокомментировать то, что происходит.
Происходит попытка подмены понятий, потому что речь не идет о разрешении или запрете киевскому режиму наносить удары по российской территории. Он и так наносит с помощью беспилотных летательных аппаратов и другими средствами. Но когда речь идет об использовании высокоточного оружия большой дальности западного производства, это совершенно другая история. Дело в том, что я уже об этом говорил, и любые эксперты это подтвердят, и у нас, и на Западе. Наносить удары современными высокоточными системами большой дальности западного производства украинская армия не в состоянии. Она не может этого делать. Это возможно только с использованием разведданных со спутников, которыми Украина не располагает. Это данные только со спутников или Евросоюза, либо Соединенных Штатов, в общем, с натовских спутников. Это первое. Второе, и очень важное, может быть, ключевое, заключается в том, что полетные задания в эти ракетные системы могут, по сути, вносить только военнослужащие стран НАТО. Украинские военнослужащие делать этого не могут. И поэтому речь идет не о том, чтобы разрешать украинскому режиму наносить удары по России этим оружием или не разрешать. Речь идет о том, чтобы принять решение о том, что страны НАТО напрямую участвуют в военном конфликте или нет. Если это решение будет принято, это будет означать не что иное, как прямое участие стран НАТО, Соединенных Штатов, европейских стран в войне на Украине. Это их прямое участие. И это уже, конечно, существенным образом меняет саму суть, саму природу конфликта. Это будет означать, что страны НАТО, США, европейские страны воюют с Россией.
The US ATACMS system has a 190-mile or 300-kilometer range. Its ballistic missiles can carry cluster munitions. They are likely to be highly effective in destroying Russian bases and military runways, from where airstrikes are launched against Ukrainian towns and cities. Storm Shadow missiles were developed together with France and rely on US guidance systems. They include Italian components. All four countries have to sign off on any change to the conditions attached to their use, even if they are not the direct suppliers themselves. Ukraine's own long-range drones have proved increasingly effective against Russian military targets. On Saturday, they hit an ammunition depot in Russia's Krasnodar Krai region, causing a massive explosion. Another attack 2 days ago set fire to a weapons dump in the town of Toropets. Strikes on Mordor's weapon arsenals are crucial to weaken Moscow's overwhelming superiority in battlefield firepower. Ukraine confirmed on Saturday that it had struck 2 large ammunition depots deep inside Russia overnight. It was the second such attack in less than a week, as Kyiv seeks to escalate hits on Russian military bases and warehouses. The strikes targeted ammunition depots near the towns of Toropets in northwestern Russia and Tikhoretsk, in the country's southwest. The facilities are both more than 200 miles from Ukrainian-controlled territory, and one has been identified as a major storage facility for munitions Russia has acquired from North Korea. Mordor has not directly acknowledged the strikes on the depots, but regional authorities said that a drone attack on Tikhoretsk had caused a fire that spread to explosive objects and triggered detonations. Some 1,200 residents were evacuated from the area. Strikes on weapon arsenals are crucial for Ukraine to weaken Russia's overwhelming fire superiority on the battlefield, military experts have said. Every week, Moscow bombards Ukraine frontline positions and cities with missiles, guided bombs and artillery shells. Ukrainian soldiers have been long outgunned at the front, with President Zelensky saying in April that Russia fires 10 shells for every Ukrainian one. Serhiy Kuzan, chairman of the Ukrainian Security and Cooperation Center, a non-governmental research group, said, "The only way to defeat the Russian army is to defeat its logistics, most specifically by destroying its ammunition depots. This is the destruction of the most key component of warfare. Tanks and guns without ammunition will not fire and will simply be ineffective." The earlier attack that took place this week on Wednesday, just outside of Toropets, and appears to have caused serious damage. NASA satellites continued to detect fires at that depot on Saturday, and satellite imagery released by the British Defence Ministry showed destroyed bunkers and 280-foot wide craters. The British Ministry of Defence said that the depot almost certainly housed munitions of various calibers for frontline use, as well as missiles and glide bombs used by nearby airfields. The head of Estonia's military intelligence centre told journalists on Friday that 300,000 tons of explosive ordnance were detonated in the attack, the equivalent of about 750,000 shells. Fucking hell. That's 2 to 3 months' supply of ammunition for Russian forces in Ukraine, he noted. One of the 2 depots hit on Saturday, the one near Tikhoretsk, has been used as a storage site for North Korean munitions shipped to Russia, as documented by several think tanks and confirmed by the White House. Since late 2022, Russia has turned to buying shells and missiles from North Korea, which has a vast supply of Soviet-era weaponry. Many of those weapons arrived at this depot, which has just had its storage capacity increased, according to reports by the Washington-based Centre for the Strategic and International Studies and the London-based Royal United Services Institute. Looks like the storage capacity's been increased again. They've gone fucking open plan. Imagery from late September 2023 shows trains arriving at the facility, delivering dozens of containers of the same size and colours as those being loaded into North Korea, the Institute's report said. The Ukrainian army said that 2,000 tons of ammunition, including some from North Korea, had been delivered to the depot shortly before Saturday's strike. The claim could not be independently verified. Ukrainian officials have said that the injection of North Korean weapons into the battlefield, particularly artillery shells, has helped Russian forces maintain an edge. At a military security conference last week in Kyiv, General Budanov, the head of Ukraine's military intelligence, said, "Of all Russia's allies, our biggest problem is North Korea. Because, with the volume of military products that they supply, they actually affect the intensity of the fighting." The full array of weapons Ukraine used to attack the depot is unclear. Justin Bronk, a senior research fellow for air power and technology at the Royal United Services Institute, said it was entirely possible to set off ammunition stored in the open, even with relatively small warheads, carried by attack drones, if they hit the right place. To do this, you need not just a missile, it must be a heavy missile, he said, pointing to long-range weapons supplied to Ukraine by Western allies such as the British-French Storm Shadow missiles. But Ukraine has so far been barred by its allies from using those weapons inside Russia. To circumvent this problem, at least for now, Ukraine has begun developing its own weapons, such as anti-ship missiles modified for land attacks, which it says it has already used to target Russia's oil infrastructure. Kyiv also says it has developed long-range rocket drones that carry large warheads and can strike targets hundreds of miles away. The Palianista rocket drone was designed and produced domestically in Ukraine. The advantage of this homegrown weapon is that unlike Western-supplied long-range missiles such as Storm Shadow or ATACMS, the Palianista can be fired at a target deep inside Russia without permission or any restrictions. It is estimated to have a range of around 370 miles, putting up to 20 Russian air bases within reach. A turbojet engine ensures high speed, but the missile's key strength is expected to be the ability to produce it in great numbers. Ukrainian drone operators have also introduced a new sort of terror onto the modern-day battlefield. aptly named Dragon Drones. In early September, Ukraine's defense ministry and bloggers began posting images of a drone flying over a forest where Russian troops were entrenched in hidden positions. The pictures show how the drone releasing what looks like a rain of fire. It is, in fact, a thermite mixture of aluminium powder and iron oxide, ignited by electrical fuse. The mixture can reach a temperature of 2,200 degrees Celsius, or 3,992 in Fahrenheit, and it will set fire to almost any material, even steel. Now, I don't know about you, but that looks pretty fucking terrifying to me. Kentucky Fried Catsup is what I'd call that. And we'll conclude it here, guys. Let's hope we get some good news from Zelensky's visit to Washington, D.C. next week. As always, thank you for watching. Slava Ukraini, Herium Slava.